Hello and welcome to online class. Today we're going to be talking briefly about fractions. All right, if you would like to look over these definitions later, you certainly can. Rewind the video and pause it, but for now I'm going to go ahead and erase them. So, just to reiterate a little bit, fractions talks about parts and wholes, and let me get rid of this here. And the word I really prefer, I guess, is it shows percents. And with that being said, what I mean is, in a fraction, if you have a smaller number over a bigger number, what you're looking at is a number that represents less than 100%. Okay? If the number on the top is the same as the number on the bottom, you have exactly 100%. And if the number on the top is bigger than the number on the bottom, what you're dealing with is a number that is more than 100%. All right? So let's talk quickly about how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions. Let's start with 1/2 plus 1/2. Okay? If we were to add this fraction here, we would go straight across. 1 plus 1 is 2, and then the denominator stays the same. Okay? That's pretty straightforward. If we said you had a half of a pie here and a half of a pie there, and you put both halves together, then you would have 100%, right? When the number on the top is the same as the number on the bottom, you would have 100% of that pie. You would have one pie, okay? Now, the denominators are not always the same in fractions, and when that happens, we need to get like denominators, okay? So let's say we were adding 1/2, we'll keep 1/2, plus 4/10, or 4/10, okay? In this case, we do not have the same denominator or bottom number, and so we need to get the same bottom number when we are adding and subtracting fractions. When I get to a situation like this, I always ask myself, can I make the smaller number the bigger number? And in this case, I can. I can make 2 into 10 by multiplying by 5. So I'm going to do that. But whatever I do to the bottom number, I must do to the top number as well. So I have just turned 1/2 into 5/10 in order to get like denominators for both my fractions that I want to add. So now I have 5/10 plus 4/10. Okay? Now that the denominators are the same, I can add straight across. 5 plus 4 is 9. And then the denominator stays the same. All right. One last one quickly here. Let's say instead of a 10 here, it were an 11. So when I ask the question that I usually ask is, can I make the smaller number the bigger number? In this case, with multiplication, I can't, okay? So what I'm gonna do in this case, in order to get my like denominators, or the bottom number the same on both sides, I'm gonna multiply this entire fraction, top and bottom, by this denominator, okay? So 2 times 11, we know that's 22. 1 times 11 is 11. And what I'm going to do with this fraction, top and bottom, is multiply by this denominator. 2 here and 2 there. 11 times 2 is 22. 4 times 2 is 8. Now, I have 2 fractions that have like denominators. Now I can add them. So that would be 11/22 plus 8/22. And that would give me 19 over 22. And that is how we add fractions that have like denominators, if they're like from the beginning, or if we need to change them. We've shown you both ways that you can do that as well. And the truth of the matter is, you can do the same thing when you're subtracting subtracting fractions as well. Okay, just remember you need like denominators when you're adding and subtracting fractions. Since they are the same, adding and subtracting, I'm not going to do any subtraction problems at this time. All right, so let's move right on to multiplication or multiplying fractions. All right, let's say we had 3/4 times 5/8, or 5 over 8. Now, unlike adding or subtracting, or adding and subtracting fractions, we do not need the denominators or the bottom numbers to be the same when we multiply fractions. Okay? With that being said, 3 times 5 is 15, and 4 times 8 is 32. And there we have it, multiplied fractions. All right. That answer there could not have been simplified, but let's say you come up, you're adding or subtracting or multiplying or dividing fractions, and you got, let's say, 5 over 10, for example. Okay, we need to simplify this fraction. Okay, so what I always ask myself is, what is the biggest number that can go into both of these numbers equally? Okay, in this case, 5 is. Okay, 5 can go into 5 one time, and 5 can go into 10 2 times. So if you did have a fraction that you could simplify, find the biggest number that will go into both of those numbers equally to get that fraction as small as possible. All right, now on to dividing fractions. Okay, so let's say we had 3 over 4 divided by 5 over 8 this time. Okay, what we are going to do is, it's called multiplying by the reciprocal of the divisor. Now that's a mouthful, but all that means is I'm going to take this second number here, or this second fraction, and I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to multiply, and then I'll be finished. Okay, again, we do not need like denominators, so 3 times 8 will give us, what is that, 24? And then 4 times 5 is 20. All right, and there you have it, divided fractions. As we close out this video, you may notice that we ended up with an improper fraction. The number on the top is bigger than the number on the bottom. More times than not, you're going to be asked to turn this into a mixed number, which is a number made up of a whole number and a proper fraction. So here's the question I always ask myself. How many times can the bottom number go into the top number? In this case, 20 can go into 24 one time. Okay, but if we put all these 20 into those 24, we're going to have some left over. We would have 4 left over, and then the bottom number stays the same. All right, and that's how we turn an improper fraction into a mixed number, by asking ourselves, how many times can the bottom number go into the top number? Once we get that whole number, we see what's remaining. We put that number at the top, and then the denominator stays the same. All right. And that'll do it for this video on fractions. Have a great day.